Here are the top stories this hour. 8 U.S. Marines remain hospitalized after ferry air crash, killing 3. 4 people killed, 18 rescued as migrant boat capsizes off Greece. Tension as Niger cuts off water and electricity from French embassy and consulates. Welcome to the World News on VOP TV. I'm Joy Adesua Iromoseli. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky responded to a U.S. senator's urging to announce elections in 2024, stated that a wartime election could take place if partner countries shared the costs. Currently, Zelensky contends that elections cannot be held in Ukraine because of the martial law, which must be extended every 90 days, which is due to expire again on November 15, after the normal October date for parliamentary polls, but before the presidential election, which would normally be held in March 2024. Leading U.S. lawmakers visited Kyiv on August 23, including Senator Lindsey Graham, who praised Kyiv's fight against Russian President Vladimir Putin, but said the country needed to show it was different by holding elections in wartime. Zelensky, in an interview, mentioned that he had discussed the funding issue with Graham, including the need to change the law. Zelensky said that holding elections in peacetime would cost $5 billion hryvnia, which is $135 million. The U.S. Commercial Secretary Gina Raimondo had begun her visit to China with a meeting with the Chinese Commerce Minister Wang Wentao today. It is the first trip to China by the sitting U.S. Commerce Chief in 7 years. Discussions between the U.S. and Chinese sides are expected to cover all issues, including attempts to decrease tensions between the world's top 2 economies. Raimondo, who arrived in Beijing last night, is also expected to meet Chinese Premier Li Qiang and Vice Premier He Feng, and is scheduled to visit Shanghai tomorrow and Wednesday. Early this year in May, Raimondo and Wentao met for 2 days in Washington. The two had discussed trade, investment, and export policies during their meeting on the sidelines of the Asian Pacific Economic Cooperation Forum in Detroit, Michigan. According to the Chinese Commerce Ministry, Wang and Raimondo had agreed to strengthen exchanges on specific economic and trade concerns and issues concerning cooperation. Raimondo is among 4 high-ranking U.S. officials to visit China since June. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, and Special Presidential Envoy for Climate John Kerry are the other 3 officials who visited Beijing and held high-level meetings. The Olympic chairman, Niger Chopra, has become the first Indian to win a gold at the World Athletic Championship, piping Pakistan's Achad Nadeem in the men's javelin final with an 88.17-meter throw. Chopra won Olympic gold in Tokyo in 2021, but managed only a silver in the World Championship in the United States last year. The only other Indian to win a medal in the World Championship earlier was Anju Bobby George, who took bronze in the women's long jump in 2003 in Paris. On the other hand, Nadeem's coming back from elbow surgery and a knee injury produced a season's best effort of 87.82 meters on his 3rd attempt to win the silver medal, while the Czech Republic Jakub van Lesch took the bronze with an 86.67-meter effort. Nadeem was competing in his first event of the year, and as soon as the javelin landed on his 3rd attempt, he broke into a wide green as he moved up to 2nd. India and Pakistan may have a heated rivalry in cricket, but in Budapest, all eyes were on 2 athletes competing for javelin gold. Both of them have been vocal in lending support to one another despite the fraught relationship between the countries. Nadeem, speaking after Sunday's final, said he was delighted for Chopra's success and that both countries finished on the podium. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi called Chopra a symbol of unparalleled excellence in the entire sports world in a post on X, the social media platform formerly known as Twitter. An Israeli air attack has struck Aleppo's international airport, resulting in a runway damage and operational shutdown. Israel rarely comments on attacks it carries out in Syria, but has repeatedly said it would not allow its arc for Iran to expand its presence in the country. During more than 12 years of civil war in Syria, Israel has launched hundreds of air attacks on its territory, primarily targeting Iran-backed forces and Lebanese Hezbollah fighters, as well as Syrian army positions. Syria Ministry of Transport official Suleiman Khalil said the damage centered on only functioning runway, adding that maintenance team will start repair work today to return the airports to service as quickly as possible. Flights have been diverted to Damascus and Latakia airports. The Syria Observatory for Human Rights stated that the attacks also targeted weapons depots at the adjacent Narab military airport. Israel attacks have repeatedly caused the grounding of flights and the airport in Aleppo and the capital Damascus, both of which are controlled by the government. Over the past year, Israel has carried out a number of attacks within Syrian government-controlled territories with a focus on Damascus and Aleppo airports. The Aleppo airport has been targeted several times this year, including twice in March, which similarly disrupted operations. According to the War Monitor, in early May, the Israeli attacks on the Aleppo area killed 4 Syrian officers and 3 Iran-backed fighters and forced a halt to flight. Also, according to the UK-based Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, it was reported that 3 persons were killed during the March 7 attack, while another attack 2 weeks later destroyed a suspected arms depot used by Iran-backed militia at Aleppo airport. However, today's attack came a week after 2 fighters backed the Syrian government were killed in Israeli air attacks on sites near Damascus, which relies on a network of sources on the ground in Syria. 4 migrants have died as their boat capsizes off the Greek island and Lesbos called Midilli in Turkish, while 18 people were rescued. According to a brief statement today, a patrol picked up 22 persons in Aegean, but 4 of them were already dead. The survivors were transferred to Mytilene, the main city on the isle, which lies along a passage route for migrants. No details were given about the nationalities or the condition of those rescued. According to local media reports, the survivors, including Yemenis, Palestinians and Somalis, Greece and Somalis. Greece has been one of the preferred entry points into Europe for many people from Africa and Asia seeking refuge from conflict and poverty. According to the United Nations, more than 15,000 people have reached Greece by sea and land so far this year, and authorities in Athens have been heavily criticized for their handling and management of asylum applications. Papua New Guinea will open an embassy in Jerusalem next week during a visit by Prime Minister James Marape. Papua New Guinea established diplomatic ties with Israel in 1978 and currently maintains a consulate near Tel Aviv, while Israel handles its relations with PNG through its embassy in Australia. Israel's Ministry of Foreign Affairs said in February that the PNG would open its first embassy in the country sometime in 2023. Most countries with an official diplomatic presence in Israel maintain embassies in Tel Aviv. The United States moved its embassy to the city in May 2018, a few months after then-President Donald Trump announced the U.S. recognition of Jerusalem as Israel's capital. Kosovo, Guatemala, and Honduras also operate from Jerusalem. Jerusalem remains at the heart of the decade-long Middle East conflict. Israel captured the eastern part of the city in 1967 and annexed it in 1980 in violation of international law. The Palestinian Authority wants East Jerusalem to be the capital of a future Palestinian state, but Israeli leaders insist that the city should be the undivided capital of Israel. General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan has engaged in a conversation with South Sudan's President Salva Kiir on Saturday subsequent to his departure from Khartoum through a military operation executed by his troops on August 24. Toots Gatlouk, South Sudan's President Advisor on Security Affairs, stated that Kiir and al-Burhan had a telephone call where Kiir reiterated his commitment to supporting initiatives aimed at terminating the ongoing conflict. However, he refrained from disclosing specific details of the telephone conversation. Since the commencement of the conflict in April 2023, South Sudan has emerged as a regional advocate for peaceful conflict resolution. President Kiir has expressed his willingness to mediate, provided that the opposing leaders are amenable to his proposal. Initially, President Kiir, alongside the presidents of Kenya and Djibouti, had planned to visit Khartoum the day after the conflict erupted in the capital. However, due to deteriorating security conditions and the closure of the Khartoum airport, the trip was deferred until new arrangements could be made. The two nations remain closely intertwined politically and economically, with populations freely circulating between them. The demarcation of the border between the two countries is still pending. The Rapid Support Forces were assigned the task of safeguarding refineries and pipelines. They took control of these strategy installations after the outbreak of war on April 15. However, the paramilitary force has not thus far interrupted oil pumping or its transportation to Port Sudan for international exportation. 8 U.S. Marines remained in a hospital in the northern Australian port city of Darwin today after they were injured in a ferry crash of an aircraft that killed 3 of their colleagues on the island. Northern Territory's Chief Minister Natasha Feliz stated that all 20 survivors of the crash were flown to the 50 miles south from Melville Island to Darwin within hours of the Marine V-22 Osprey crashing at 9:30 a.m. yesterday during a multinational training exercise. She also noted that they were all taken to the Royal Darwin Hospital and 12 had been discharged today. The first 5 Marines to arrive at the city's main hospital were critically injured and 1 underwent emergency surgery. Feliz said she would not detail the conditions of 8 who remain in the hospital out of respect for them and their families. The Osprey that crashed was one of 2 that flew from Darwin to Melville yesterday as part of Exercise Predator's Run, which involves the militaries of the US, Australia, Indonesia, the Philippines, and East Timor. All 23 Marines aboard the lost aircraft were temporarily based in Darwin as part of the Marine Corps annual troop rotation. Around 150 U.S. Marines are currently based in Darwin, and up to 2,500 rotate through the city every year. They are part of the realignment of U.S. forces in the Asian Pacific that is broadly meant to face an increasingly assertive China. According to the Northern Territory Police Commissioner, Michael Murphy stated that the cause of the crash is yet to be determined and investigators will remain at the site for at least 10 days. The Osprey, a hybrid aircraft that takes off and lands like a helicopter, but during flight can tilt its propellers forward and cruise much faster like an airplane, crashed into tropical forest and burst into flame. Before yesterday, there had been 5 fatal crashes of marine ospreys since 2012, causing a total of 16 deaths. Niger Republic has cut off water and electricity supply to the French embassy and consulates in the country. The president of the National Support Committee for the National Council for the Safeguarding of the Country, El Issa Hassoumi, has urged French partners to suspend fuel supply, water, electricity, and food products to the French embassy and consulates. He noted that any French partner who continues to supply goods and services would be considered enemies of the Niger people. Earlier, it was reported that the coup leader in Niger Republic has ordered French Ambassador Celia Lit to leave the country within 48 hours. The Foreign Ministry disclosed this in a statement on Friday. According to the statement, the decision was taken partly due to Lit's refusal to respond to an invitation to a meeting with the Minister of Foreign Affairs. The military government in the Niger Republic has reacted to the report that it ordered German, United States, and Nigerian ambassadors to leave the country. The Niger coup leader denied the widely circulated report, stating that only the French ambassador Sylvain Lit was ordered to leave the country. And that's all on World News on VOP TV. We would like you to subscribe and engage with us on YouTube. It is Voice of the People TV, and on other social media channels at VOP TV Live. I'm Joy Adesuwa Eramaseli. Many thanks for watching.